Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to do the Russian join. So this technique is perfect for any time you want to join a new color or a new skein of yarn without having a knot, a place where you're going to have to weave in ends, or anything like that. So I like to use this a lot, especially if the stitch that I'm doing is not as easy to bury ends in as, just back and forth single crochet, for example, is pretty easy to hide an end in. But some stitches are a little bit more open, and, it can be a little bit harder to find a good place to weave in your ends when you have to join a new ball of yarn. So the one and only downside to this technique that I know of is that it does create a section, where the two ends are joined together. It does create a length that is a little bit thicker than the rest of the yarn. So depending on the yarn that you're using, some yarns you won't really see that, and some yarns and some stitches it might be really obvious. So you just, decide what's going to work best for your project. But I've used this a lot, and this is one of my favorite ways to join a new ball of yarn. So I've got two different colored yarns to join here. You don't have to do them with two different colors. I do this a lot with, joining another ball of the same color, but this is so you can see how this is going to work. You're going to need some scissors if necessary. Sometimes you need them, sometimes you don't. And you're going to need a yarn needle. Now this is one of the only instances that I prefer a straight yarn needle. I usually use a bent tipped one, but for this I like a straight yarn needle, preferably metal. That's my favorite kind. So what you're going to do is you want to decide how much overlap you want. So basically, as we join these together, it's kind of going to go like that. So what we want is a good 5-inch end that's coming through. So basically all we've done is, crossed the ends like that, and then, fold back the yellow one towards the yellow side and the purplish burgundy to that side. So what we're going to do is basically weave in this tail from the yellow side into the twist of the yellow yarn. Now if you're using a roving yarn, this may not work so well. If you're using a single ply yarn, this could also be a little more difficult. But because this is a several ply worsted weight yarn, so that you can actually see it, we're basically going to insert the needle up into the center of that strand of yarn and just kind of feed it through. And sometimes you need to kind of twist the yarn further in the direction that it is already twisted, and just slip that yarn needle through the center, kind of like the core of the yarn. And as I go up, again, I'm still kind of turning it to make sure that it continues to be twisted around my needle. Otherwise, it's not actually going to do anything. So I'm just going to pull that through. And when I inserted that originally, that's at the point that I want it to fold over. Like so. So when you pull on it, basically you're going to, you see how this is all scrunched up right here? You're going to pull on it and slide it until it covers the end of your yarn. If you have a little bit extra, you can either weave it in further or you can trim it. But you want to make sure that the yarn is twisted enough to wherever that you trim it, it's not going to keep wiggling its way out. So we have attached the yellow side. Now we're going to take the purplish burgundy and do the same thing. So I'm going to take the end onto my yarn needle, and I'm going to insert it right next to where it goes through the yellow on the other side, so right about here, and just keep feeding it up through the center of the yarn, just like we did on the other side. And you just usually kind of estimate how far up the yarn you need to go to cover the yarn that you have. So you see how that's all scrunched up? We're going to slide that down the yarn tail. So this is not enough of length to go through for the entire tail. So I'm going to back it up just a little bit and keep the yarn twisted and continue at the exact same spot that I stopped. Just continue to feed it up a bit further. And then as I pull it through, we can then slide that extra scrunched up yarn until the other end disappears. So although both sides of this joint are just a little bit thicker than the rest of the yarn, the joint itself is totally invisible if you're using both matching colors. And this is a great way to join a new skein of yarn in the middle of a row, or even at the end of a row, where you don't want to have more ends to weave in or any knots. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what's your favorite method to join a new skein of yarn in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching.